others have avoided it. So where others get pursuing is where no opportunity. It happens that is where the maximum opportunity is. So it's all in our mind. If you are determined that you will find something good in everything on every path. And as it is then more difficult, more untreaded the path are, more is the accomplishment and learning. I would not hesitate here in saying that we do lack in one aspect, where we may not be able to go, do whatever is known as networking, to reach where some are able to. And my colleagues, some of them have been very honest in saying that you have not been able to do what we have done, and therefore we have able to reach a step ahead. It does not matter. It just does not matter. It's your own courage and strength which will take you forward. And that's my daughter was asked this question when she was interviewed for her engineering for her job, and she said that there would be friends and people around you who will backstab you, who will overrun you, and maybe they will be able to reach farther than you. She said it does not matter. What they may do in 2 years, I may be able to do it in 3 years. But I know for sure I will reach where I want. So don't do that. It just does not matter. That's what I've learned in the 30 years, that I have reached where I am. And I have not reached here because somebody has, taken me out of them. I'm there because of my hard work. And then somebody acknowledges the hard work. I think that is the biggest role. But having said that, we do need some kind of hand-holding, mentoring, and then I was reading and I thought it was very, very well. They said, when we talk of empowerment, empowered we get with education, knowledge, support. What is more important is mentoring. That is where the activity of community, of support, of people standing by you, which is more important. There are times when you may be more capable, but may not be picked up. That is where you need people around you who will take you. As women, it is a very colloquial statement which is always made that a woman is the biggest enemy of a woman. I think it is high time for all of us to realize that nobody can take away your shine. You can make others shine, your shine will become brighter. It will not be undermined in any way. This is the time that we get together in these kinds of gatherings to reinforce and to then we all stand together. That was for the beginning.
More questions to shine. Now coming back to you, Elizabeth, on this line. Your journey has been a very inspiring one. I mean, I remember when I started my law practice, I used to go and see how you argue in court, how you conduct yourself in court, how do you, what your hand gestures, how your preparation is, how you are actually making a submission before the court. How has your journey been? Because that is something that will really inspire a lot of young women here to reach where you have and to accomplish all that you have. I think it will be very important.
Thank you. It was a very kind words that you said about me. I don't know whether I'm deserving of that or not. And good evening, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here. One of my earliest memories is of a beautiful Urdu poet which my father used to say very often to me. And I don't claim that I understood it fully then, but somehow it got embedded in my head, and that has been my reason life, and I'll share that with you. It goes something like this. ए जज्बा दिल का मैं चाहूँ हर चीज मुकाबले आ जाए मंजिल के लिए 2 गांव चलूं और सामने मंजिल आ जाए. What does it mean? And if I am determined to achieve a goal, I just need to take that first step towards that goal. And lo and behold, that goal will start walking towards me. Yeah? So we need to manifest what we wish to achieve. My journey, I would be perhaps, not be very honest if I was not to admit that I was very privileged. I did not have parents who were anti-empowerment of women. I did not have parents who said, "Acha pad lo," and thereafter, go get married. No, they were very supportive, and I think that was the first battle won. When I joined the bar, I found that competency and meritocracy occupies the field. Of course, there will be aberrations, there will be exceptions, but then let's remember that exceptions go to prove the rule. Did I face any biases? I don't think so. I don't remember. Save and except for one instance, which instead of discouraging me, actually, made me feel very, very proud about the fact. So what was the observation? Very quickly. There was this particular judge, I will not name the judge, and I just joined the bar in about 2.5, 3 years. And every time I would appear before that judge, I would get an adverse order. If I would say it's morning, the judge would say it's evening. I would say it's left, he would say it's right. To the extent that it became a conversation point in the bar room, that what is it? Why is it that this is happening? And one day I had my client who traveled all the way from London, and I was so young at the bar, and I told him, "No, your presence is very important, so you better be in court." And he was sitting right at the back, and lo and behold, the very same thing repeated itself. The judge was very anti whatever I was saying. I was simply asking for some very innocuous relief, which anybody would have thought it otherwise. And I got an order against me. I came out. The client was fully empathetic. He understood. He said, "No, it's all right. I saw you did a very good job." But that afternoon, I went and sought an appointment with the judge. I sought an audience with the judge. And I said to him, I said, "Sir, what is it about me that seems to have annoyed your lordship? Is it something that I have done? Is it something that I need to know about? Because how else am I going to correct myself?" There was something very interesting that he said to me. He said, "Madam, there are 2 things I wish to say. One is, I don't like the way you're always prepared with your case. You're always prepared. Second, I don't like the confidence on your face." So I said, "Judge, about the first, I'm paid to do a good job for my client. And I don't think I'll ever walk into a court underprepared, ill-prepared, or not prepared at all. That's not something I'll ever do. That's dishonesty to the police and my client. And about my faith and confidence, I was born with it. I can't do anything about it." Now, was this a biased statement? Maybe. But I took it as a compliment. I said, "All right, if this is the way you are going to operate, I'm not going to change, because this is not a negative, So really, it all depends. The biases and all, everybody faces. I don't think men can say they don't face biases. I don't say women don't face biases. But let that not become a pessimistic story for us. The narrative must always remain a positive narrative. A bias should make us more determined to achieve our goals, to prove the boundaries. So that's what I thought I'd share with everybody here. Very interesting.
biases, absolutely. Do you think you have ever faced bias? And if yes, what kind of circumstances and how do you face it? And there's the second question that I'll also ask you is, do you still think that diversity is necessary in our workforce? So that's no question for now.
The first one, whether I face the bias. So, I think whatever I have achieved, I have worked for it. And whatever I have not achieved or wherever I have fallen short, I know that I have fallen short somewhere. So it's never been that, I can attribute it to anything or anybody or saying that, my boss or my organization did not give me an opportunity, because I was always given opportunities and positions and whatever I wanted to get out of my profession. So much so that, sometimes it seems that it's an intention to put out these words, and you wanted it, to work for it, to always got it. So I have not really faced, a bias in the sense that something which hindered my growth or anything. But there are certain biases which are not as strong as the one you shared with you. Sometimes men tend to take women a little less seriously. So it's just an incident that I will share with you. It happens very recent times. So there are, of course, it's a mix of now, thankfully, so you have more leaders than before, and you have, of course, men leaders. So another, woman leader, and I was sitting in a conference room. It was an HR matter, and we were, doing something really big. So obviously, it required that kind of a privacy. So we moved to a conference room, and we were discussing, and suddenly another colleague of ours, who's a man, who just walked in and said, "Oh, ladies, you're having fun." And we thought, you will never ever say that to, two men sitting in a conference room and discussing. You will always probably say that, "Okay, I'm really sorry that I barged in." So it was like a little bit of a shock that this is an, inherent bias that men carry. And I know that gentleman, he meant no harm, and he's a very good guy. And he's a great friend also. But these kind of biases one feels. But having said that, did any bias impact or affect my career in a way that, I felt that I got left behind? Definitely not. So I think, just Tina also talked about the fact that if you have this confidence and if you are making it work for yourself, then there is no dearth of opportunities. And this is what I feel. In fact, sometimes I hear my male colleagues say that, you women have it easy. And I partly agree with that, because there are less women who actually make it to that, place because of, societal construct, because we have to take care of our families, and, women, half, or maybe, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of women get dropped off before they reach those levels. So we're competing with lesser people or lesser women than men who are competing with more men. So this is something I hear a lot from my male colleagues. So, yeah, so I think this is one part. And the second question was, do we need women on the board, right? Definitely, because I think diversity is absolutely a must. It's not a question of just doing the tick mark and saying that you need women just because it's mandated by law or mandated by regulation. Regulation is trying to push on to make sure that at least the society and the corporate world and the business world is seeing that there is something which is definitely a myth. And I personally feel that, women bring, not only diversity, they not only stick on that diversity quotient which is mandated, they bring diverse ideas, they bring a very, very different perspective than men. And, and it's not something that men can't. Men have their own point of view, but I think women definitely bring a very, very different perspective, and their seat on the table for them is not just good for them, it's also good for the companies. Companies tend to do better, and if you look at the statistics, companies which have diverse boards are known to do much better on profitability. And even when you are trying to create a space for your company, or you're trying to induct board members, and I've been doing that for years, and I've been inducting and mentoring and also sort of hand-holding the directors. I know for a fact that companies look for not just skill set, experience, they also look at diversity of, thought. diversity of background that people come from, and the reason is simple. Because they want diversity in the ideas that we bring to the table, because that is what is going to in turn help the company. And I think in this context, I'll just take an example from the nature. That if you look at nature supports anything which has diversity. Nature will support it, and it will make it more abundant. If you look at take an example of rainforest. In rainforest, you have different kind of flora, fauna, you have different kinds of trees and plants, and they coexist. And you never have to ever put fertilizer in a rainforest. It's not going to live for a year, it's going to live for centuries. But in a let's say if it's a crop field, it will very soon deplete of the fertilizer that it needs, and it will become not fertile or whatever. So similarly, I think whatever happens to nature, and I draw that to these kind of examples to real life. Whatever happens to nature also happens in life. If you have a boat which does not have wheels, you are totally you have a blind spot, because you are totally oblivious to another perspective that does not exist. Similarly, if you have a boat which has only wheels, even that is not a good boat, because there is another very strong perspective that you need on the table. And so this is one part. And I think on the business side, if I talk about we all know that, I think in a household and even otherwise, maybe 70 to 80% decisions of the retail products are made by women. So not having women in those decision making, or not giving her a seat on those tables is absolutely, criminal for the business, because they understand what the customer or the client likes. They are the customers. They are probably more than 50% customers or clients. So they obviously understand, they have the pulse of the customer. So their contributions are definitely aiding the business and making it more profitable and making it more conducive, more sustainable, all of that. And few other elements or aspects about soft skills that women have, and I think we should play to our natural. We should not shy away. We should not, we should not feel any less because we have those attributes. Those are our strengths. We are very suited. So women do a lot of things out of intuition, and those intuitive, elements they bring to the table as well. And they're more empathetic. In a company, you have companies are mostly run by people, and they're run for people. Whether it's products or services, you're selling it to people again. So having empathy and having that element in your decision making helps, because you will always find women coming up with greater solutions on employee engagement initiatives than men. And those are very, very strong elements, because you are going to make sure that your workforce is happy and your customers are happy, because there is an element of empathy has gone into the decision making. So I think, having said that, I think all of this put together makes it's a good story for women to be on the table, definitely.
Thank you so much, Deepika, and I completely agree with you. And there are so many advantages that you have mentioned about why we should be on the board. Now, coming to you, Richa, one is to talk about your conscious and unconscious bias that you have seen during your journey. But more importantly, and with all the advantages that Deepika just mentioned, that it is there with respect to women being on board, why do you think that we still need a legislation to ensure that there is at least one representative on the board? So where are we lacking? What is it that is required to be done for all of us here to find a place on the board?
Good evening, everyone. I think as far as bias is concerned, there is usually things which have been said that there's not faced bias in some form, shape, or manner. Whether it has acted as an impediment in their career or not, or whether it has made their day-to-day life difficult, that's a different matter. But I think everybody has faced their own share of biases. In my personal journey, as Ma'am also said, I'm narrow, which is also a very similar family where thankfully my parents were very supportive. And from day zero, in fact, like any other family, they never told me that I have to have a degree or a graduation to finally marry and settle down. My mother is a very strong mother, and in her idea, I was always supposed to be a career woman. And I think it was never an option on the table, not just because it was there, but it was just never discussed that I would be anything other than a career woman. So because of that, there was a lot of strength in which I received from my mother, which I carried on in my career, in my professional life, just helped me in day-to-day life. As far as biases are concerned, I joined the career as every one of you when I was 23 years old, and from a law firm I shifted to an in-house role where I was 28. And the in-house role I shifted into wherein all the, it's a hospital, it's a wellness hospital, and most of the doctors are chairmen which are 60 years and above, and all the board members were also very similar age group. So for them to be able to sit there and listen to a 28-year-old girl was something that was very new for them, because they've never done that. 15 years back, the environment was different, the businesses were done in a very different way, and they were to sit down and listen to a 28-year-old girl was something which they thought was like they never needed to do it. And as far as bias is concerned, I've heard enough and more number of times that listen, we don't need to hear this, and since ये ज़्यादा बड़े तो हमारे बच्चे हैं, तो खुद मुझे बताओ कि कैसे ये particular चीज़ होनी है. So, but with conscious effort, with hard work, with persistence, with consistency, I was able to make a place for myself in that organization. And medicine is a very male-dominant area. And accordingly, the societal mindset was that only men were at equal positions, were at positions where they had a decision-making power. So I did have my own challenges, but as everybody here, I think in the esteemed panel will believe that if you have the confidence and if you have the consistency and you're able and you're not afraid of voicing your opinion and standing by your opinion, then you're able to show the consistency and you're able to get that seat of decision making. As far as diversity is concerned, I think the regulation being required for ensuring diversity, for ensuring a board position for women, that is very unfortunate, but it is because, and I'm sorry for saying that, but we have regulations against domestic violence, we have regulations against sexual harassment, we have regulations against maternity benefits. These are the regulations which need not be there. They should be part of the social fabric, but unfortunately they are not, and that is why to protect that we need that regulatory environment. And similarly, we need a regulatory framework to ensure that there is board representation. I think the one thing which is required at our end, as all the women who are sitting inside this room and outside, is that we keep ourselves secondary, whether it's our upbringing, whether it is the way the society is. We always think that they're not important. We always think that, it's my job that is important, it is my husband's job that's more important. If anybody in the relationship who has to take a second seat, it is the woman. And that is something which is keeping us back. That is something which is not letting us succeed and not letting us take that decision making on the table. So that's what I think needs to change.
Thank you so much, Vijay. That was a very interesting insight.
Now coming back to you, Rizwan, on this, because I think you have a very specific point of view on why should we have a position on the board, or if you already have a position on the board, what is your take? Why are we still lacking? Why is there a need for a legislation to ensure that we have a seat on the table still?
So first, let me tell you what do I feel about a seat on the board. Do not give me a seat on the board based on my gender. I don't want to, thank you. Because the moment you're going to do that, you're going to expect me to just play the stereotype role. अच्छा आप आ गई हैं? Oh, very nice. चाय क्या पिएगी? Right? samosa time? No, I'm not here because of that. If I get a seat on the board because of my merit, because of my competency, because of my skill sets, then I'm no different from any other person sitting on the board. So I think as women, we need to be very careful about the offer which we receive for being on the board. Now, it could be in any leadership position, right? It could be in a corporate as being a director. It could be part of, in a firm, the position of a manager, managing partner, any leadership position. My gender is secondary to my competency. And if I am competent, you will give me a position on the board, you will give me a leadership position. And if you don't, I will demand it. I am not here for your largesse. I am not here for favors. Right? If I have earned it, and if I am earning it and yet you are depriving me of it, I will make sure that we have a conversation over it. And if I find that this is a no-go for me, I will seek my options. I think that's where every professional has to have that slight paradigm shift in her thinking. Legislation, I think Richa very rightly pointed out, it's sad that we need legislations in the year 2024. What legislation do I need for the purposes of recognition or assertion of my competency? And is this reservation just a largesse? Is it a backdoor entry for anything other than meritocracy, competency? So when we talk about reservations, say, in the legislative bodies, is it just a backdoor entry for having my wife, my daughter-in-law, my niece over there? Or is it that competent women are going to find a seat in the legislative body? So I think when we talk about legislation, we really need to ask ourselves, and it's a much larger debate, we need to ask ourselves, do we really need legislation? And if those legislations are there, are they empowering us or are they declarations of us being in a disadvantageous position or starting from a disadvantageous position? Board reservations, for example, we now have a mandatory requirement of having at least one woman director on the board. Are you going to pick up only from the HR section? Are you going to pick up only from the soft skill sections? Why not Director Finance? Why not Director Operations? Why not Director Technology? So somewhere I think we need to be a little bit more cognizant about how we are going to position ourselves, how we are going to negotiate, and how much risk are we willing to take. Are we going to be risk averse and going to just say, okay, too little, too late, but at least there is something. I don't think that's a philosophy which I would endorse for ourselves.
That's true. And in the session that we actually heard the statistics, was that there are many high costs even now in India where we have no women judges. So like there is a need for a legislative change to bring women on the board, what kind of social, legislative or policy amendment that is required now to bring women to the court? I mean, do we need a reservation in the courtrooms as well? Because I don't see there to be a dearth of merit so far as women is concerned with all these high courts. But it is not necessary that we have a female representation in these high courts. So what kind of change is required? Is there social change required? Legislative change required? Or do you think that there is something more which is required to be done to bring the women to the front?
I'll take it forward from where it was left is, the big question is, do we need any kind of reservation, or our merit would take us where we should be? That is where the gap is. I may be absolutely meritorious, I may have the best of qualifications, but there exists a serious time where men do not want to acknowledge the existence of a competent person. Unfortunately, they all wear colored glasses. If there's a man and a woman, then only the man would be visible. So when we are talking of reservations, that is only to create space. Because there is a space for women, they are purpose compelled to look at the woman. But this is very right, we don't want to be there as a charity. We want to be there because of something. If I'm not meritorious, please do not take. That's my take why at times it is requiring some kind of legislative support to create place and space for them. Before I answer your question, there has been a mindset traditionally where women have been defined as role which is very limited to be four walls of the house. And over a period of time, there is a perception that women do not know economics, commerce, business. They are only good at maybe even now the cost because family form please put a woman there. And in the commercial form, there are no women. IKEA, no woman knows anything. So those kind of mindsets, unfortunately, continue to exist. Of course, with places like Delhi, where there is so much of opportunity and women are doing so well, we have been able to clear that class issues a little. And this is something that we have been able to create an absolute equal environment, but things are changing, they take time, we are patient, we are working, we will achieve it. That's what my first take is. Secondly, so far as judiciary is concerned, I think because it is a competition which is based on merit, when somebody takes the exam, all the papers are corrected, they don't know the gender. And that's where our safety is purely on what we have written and many. Today, the good thing is about 55% are the women. So obviously, there is a change in the environment where judiciary is concerned. The third aspect I would relate to, because I recently discussed that we do need legislative support to bring in social. Simple example is, which recently I did when I talked to Chairman, I felt really good writing it, is that what is the status of a woman in a family? She is a sister, she is born to her mother's house, disowned by her parents' family. And that is the reason why they were never considered a part of a compulsory university. The law said women entitled to equal rights. How much have we been able to translate it into reality? Every time, traditionally, there is a relinquishment deed with every woman in society by the family. And we have been doing it. I have done it. All of us have done it. But now in the last 10 years, there is a slight change, where women have started exporting their values, and the remark is, women have started coming to the fore unnecessarily getting into litigation. So this is a woman who came because she was two-thirds right. The simplest question was whether a woman can be a kasa. It was not accepted. And hopefully now, with some kind of interpretation and judgment today, it will be very difficult for men to accept that this is where the empowerment is. So legislation, judgment are important for bringing in a position. We are on a positive path. maybe 10 years hence we'll be having different kinds of activities.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, the last question, and this is a question common for all the speakers, and I'll start with you, Deepika. What kind of a role do you see mentorship and leadership play in the development of women and to get into the board roles? I think this is the last question. And a quick bite from all for us.
So I think there is obviously self and office success, and also there are, so sometimes you yourself don't know what are the gaps, so I think mentor definitely helps to fill that gap and helps to identify, like your blind spots that you don't see. So mentor will help you do that, and I'm sure all of us have mentored people during our professional lives, and and I think more than the mentor also learn in the process, because I think you also as a team grow while you're mentoring someone.
I think mentorship is very important, and in today's in terms of what we're discussing today, the mentorship that's required, whether it's a man or a woman, is to be able, and I feel that I'm a successful mentor if I'm able to lead with my team the concepts that whether man or woman look at the merits. And if it's a woman, please facilitate, please support, please help. Because to be in a place we are, we need more support.
So I say this very often, why do you need a mentor? I think you need a mentor to be able to understand that by the time you are 30, you should know the difference between doing a job and making a career. These are two very different things. We are somehow, as women, we spend a lot of time in doing our job and doing it brilliantly. We bring great skill sets onto the table. We work harder than the next person, next man. But that's it. We do not concentrate on our careers. Career building is a different trajectory altogether. It requires a very different kind of skill set. And by the time we are in our mid-30s, I always say that the top AOPs are already identified to be given to identified people. And what do I mean by AOP? Assignments, opportunities, and position. So if the top assignment, if I'm only doing my job and not upgrading my skill set, the assignment may not come to me because I don't have the skill set. If I do not upgrade myself to the next level, the opportunity, the top opportunity may equally bypass me. The top leadership position will also bypass me, but a mentor will help you understand the difference between doing a job and creating and taking forward your career. So please, please, please be mentors to people who are junior to you, and please seek mentorship from the seniors around you, and the seniors, we all have a duty owed to the younger bar, especially the women, to mentor them to see the difference. And just one very small thing, in terms of how do I upgrade my skills. Sometimes, very many people have asked me, I thought very fine for you to say upgrade your skills. Do I take time off from work? No. Remember when we were in school, we would be made to read history, some of us loved it. We were made to read math, I hated it. But we spent enough time in understanding how to solve the mathematical problems as well. I didn't only read history. So how about, picking up your favorite book, if you love literature, sure, read it. Read a Tennyson or read a Shakespeare or whatever you feel like. But how about picking up a book, whether online or by walking into a library or a bookstore, on management skills? You're not to write an exam, you're not to write a paper on management skills, you're not to memorize it. But when you read it, you will retain something of it. And that will add to your leadership qualities, AOPs. Yeah, thanks.
I'd like to thank all the panelists for their insights. Now I would request Honorable Dr. Lalit to please come up on stage and facilitate all our speakers with a memento and thank us as a Thanksgiving token.
Thank you so much, everybody, actually, to be so patient at the last session. Thank you.
Let's have a huge round of applause everyone for Honorable Miss Justice Nina Bansal, Judge at High Court of Delhi. Let's have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Next up is Miss Rita Singh, General Counsel at Medanta Group of Hospitals. Let's have a huge round of applause everyone for Miss Rita Singh.
निकलना तो निकल सकते हैं ना, ऐसे ही नो प्रॉब्लम नहीं। नेटवर्किंग सेशन तो हो ही नहीं पा रहा है, नहीं हुआ ना, क्या नहीं हुआ।
Next up is Miss Ritu Bhalla, partner at Lutra and Lutra. We have a huge round of applause everyone for Miss